All right, everybody. Welcome to new edition of TNM Unplugged. This is the space where we elevate your heart, we elevate your soul and your spirit to the next level of yourself. This is the space when we grow and evolve together into the next best version of ourselves. And today we're going to have this elevation and growth with a really beautiful and dear friend of mine, who is also a coaching colleague, Patrycja Skurzak. I'll tell you a little bit more about Patrycja, and before I tell you more about her, I want to give you also the topic of this conversation, and the topic is really, really appropriate, relevant, important for these times that we're living in right now, and the topic is about confidence. How do we become more confident in our life? How do we become more confident in our work? What do we need to learn? How do we need to evolve? How do we need to grow to build up our confidence further? This is applicable to everybody. I mean, even people who are perceiving themselves as very confident. I have some friends or some colleagues that when they think, talk about confidence, they would tell, but I'm quite confident. I still believe this topic is applicable to all of them because they all need to grow in their confidence. And also it's applicable for people who are struggling a little bit, finding their footing, beginning more self-assertive, more confident, more relaxed with themselves, and so on and so forth. So I think it's going to be a wonderful conversation with me and Patrycja today that will really impact and empower your business life, your personal life, your family life, your life in general. So Patrycja, she is an amazing coach, vibrant, dynamic, alive. She is the ICF accredited coach from the CTI, and some of you already know CTI Coach Training Institute when she's a co-active coach. She's also NLP practitioner, which I love. NLP, it's a really good tool to have in your toolbox when it comes to how do you coach and evolve people. She has delivered a number of individual or one-to-one coaching sessions, group coaching sessions, and she's an associate coach and training partner with the multiplicities of the organizations. She's also obtaining her PCC, which is Personal Certified Coach Accreditation, which is lovely. She's going to be there very, very soon. She enjoys working with the groups, with the clients, with the organizations. She also helps people create more satisfying results through their performance, through positive charge, through leading more effectively, to building healthier relationship and leveraging their strengths. So she's all-rounded coach, with a lot of experience, very dynamic, very interesting. She also, had this wonderful formula that she is talking about sometimes, which is awareness plus clarity plus attention equals personal fulfillment. And I love that, personal fulfillment and also success. So, welcome, Patrycja, to this show.
Thank you, Zoran. I'm so happy to be here. And I have to say that my confidence muscle just skyrocketed after hearing your introduction. So thank you. I feel flattered.
I know, this is becoming one of the signature of the podcast because every time I introduce somebody, I like doing this so much. People have the same reaction like you. They're like, oh my God, is it really me? I'm listening about myself. I'm thinking, oh, this is so cool. But it is, when you take time to really get to understand somebody and who they are and what they bring into the conversation like you, it sounds amazing, but it's actually you. So I'm happy that your confidence increased.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, please tell me, this journey into the confidence with you, how did that start and why do you love this topic so much?
Great question. And I have to say, Zoran, that apart from the fact that I've been on my own journey of growing confidence and self-esteem, I have to say in the past 10 years, since 14 years since I moved to London in 2006. So it's been always part of my individual journey. And when I stepped on the journey of coaching and I wanted to really understand what's the niche that I really want to work with, who are the people that I want to help and how do I want to help them, I realized that almost every person who was coming to me with loads of different issues around personal development and growth, almost everyone behind that issue, they've had that issue of confidence. Behind the issue of whatever they came to talk to me, there was an issue of confidence or self-esteem. And I suddenly realized, wow, it's a topic that is somehow shared by everyone. And whether we know it consciously or we maybe don't even know it, there's always that gap that we may want to work on and improve. And to me, confidence muscle, I see it almost in my, in my mind, I see it as a muscle within us, is a key, is absolutely our key in growing, in achieving our goals and just expanding as human beings in this world. It's really crucial.
Yeah. And I love that you're sharing that, because that was a obvious source behind the symptom. And I completely agree with you. In a coaching terminology, when somebody comes and shares certain things with you and you keep on coaching and working with people, very quickly you see this pattern underneath. What's really happening underneath that is preventing you to be a best possible version of you in anything that you do. And I'm so happy to hear that you have seen, okay, this confidence muscle, the confidence issue, the self-esteem issue, it's actually what is preventing that human being to be the best possible version of themselves or to achieve the goal that he or she wants to achieve. So it's really great that you managed to see that, right? Clearly.
Yeah, it was definitely a reoccurring pattern. And as a coach as well, in order to position yourself in the market, you kind of want to have that niche. And to me, the confidence topic just came so naturally. And I personally just love working on that topic. And if I may say this at this point of our conversation, is that one of the things that I've noticed as well, that there are so many misconceptions about confidence in general, and these are some of the obstacles that actually people encounter in their work around confidence. And one of them is actually the kind of, I would say, limiting belief that people are either born with confidence and are naturally confident, or they're not. And therefore, if you're not, or if you've never felt confident in your skin or in your life in general, in your career, you may think that you will never get to that point. So I abolish that from the start. Every time I work with someone, this is one of the things that we just need to abolish from the start, because again, coming from NLP world and being an NLP practitioner and using the whole philosophy and idea of neuroplasticity of our brain, confidence is a learnable skill, and we can all master it. And I know it because I've been there, and I know how I was before I worked on my confidence levels. So I know how with time and efforts and practice, like with any other skill, you can develop it, you can expand that muscle. And I'm just very excited when I talk about it, because I know it's possible.
Yeah. And I love when that excitement makes the passion and liveliness grow. So let's kind of hold that we can all become confident, and we can all, through the practice and investing time and energy into evolving ourselves, develop that muscle. And I'm also loving it that you calling it a muscle, because it is a muscle that we practice. But let's get into the kind of nitty-gritty of it. In your best opinion, what makes people not feel confident? So if I am not confident in my life, what do you feel, or what do you believe makes people not feeling that confidence, that strong muscle inside of themselves?
So one of the signs of low self-esteem or lack of confidence is when we kind of feel withdrawn from life. That's often the case when we don't take the risk, when we don't push ourselves. And often that is very strategically hidden under so many excuses as to why we shouldn't be doing certain things, that actually somehow in our logical brain, we do realize it will help us, it will grow us, it will challenge us. But somehow we are looking for those reasons as to why we shouldn't be doing it. So generally withdrawal from life, social engagement, work opportunities, just generally pushing yourself to a higher standard, as a human being. The other, I would say, more soft elements or signs of low self-esteem or confidence are when we tend to really look for approval of others. So that is a sign of very low self-trust, when we kind of really want other people to approve what we want to do or what we think is right, and we wait for that approval from the external environment. That's also a huge sign of low confidence, when we kind of don't trust our own opinion or judgment or gut feeling, as we call it as well.
And I remember this, I remember both instances from my own life, when I was seeking for the approval of the authority figure or somebody I was reporting to in my early days of career. Or I also recall sometimes not feeling that motivation, that drive, that, ability to achieve. So if you were to kind of drill a little bit deeper, just for people to understand this, what are the real causes of people not feeling that? Is it something that they were brought up with? Is it something that, they were not, educated to feel confidence? What would you say it's really causing that?
So as we know in this, and it's a great question, by the way, Zoran, and as we know in this space of personal growth and development, our upbringing, our early, age, when we were growing up, has a huge impact and always has a huge impact in making us who we are and kind of impacting our belief system. So definitely our upbringing, our role models back then when we were growing up had a huge impact, right? And it either could supported us in building that self-esteem muscle or could kind of limit that growth of that self-esteem muscle. So it is very much based on that. But I tend not to place too much attention on sort of the past events again, because it's definitely a cause. That doesn't mean that it can't be changed, right? We can definitely reflect, and for our own self-awareness, it's important to reflect on what factors from the past could impact the way I feel now. What were the triggers in the past? What were the events that potentially had impacted me to the point that I don't believe I can do things, or I don't believe I'm worthy, or I don't believe I deserve something in my life? Great self-awareness, and leaving that behind, it's very important to sort of understand that it can be changed. The other factor that I need to mention, and Zoran, I think this is more obvious than ever before in the history of human beings today, honestly, and I'm sure you will agree. Well, let's see. But I honestly think we live in a comparison disorder sort of crisis. We tend to compare ourselves with other standards, other people, other business ideas to a next level. I don't think our parents did that. They didn't have the means to do that.
No.
Right? The kind of tendency to compare ourselves is normal, but the possibility of comparison today is so enormous that we just dive in, and it's addictive. And honestly, it's a killer to your self-esteem and confidence. It's a killer. It's a classic killer. Yeah.
I know, I'm guilty as charged. I completely agree with you. For me, the social media and everything that's happening with social media, when you begin looking at yourself, your social persona and other people, and comparing yourself and saying, oh my God, they're so good and I'm not that. Or, they look at their post and how good looking they are. How can I become that good looking? I'm with you. Now more than ever, that comparison becomes challenging and has direct impact to lowering your self-esteem and self-confidence, right?
Absolutely. And the problem is we do realize that we do tend to, have a lot of scrolling time in our lives, and that comparison happens. We kind of naively think that it's not going to impact us, but maybe not directly when you kind of go, oh my God, so low. I just compared myself to someone, but indirectly, it has a huge impact on your self-esteem. Because what happens in your subconsciousness, you suddenly have these unattainable standards somewhere out there, which you believe you can have, because these days the whole motto of living is, you can do anything, you can be anything, you can achieve anything. And so you go, well, then I want to be this way, or I want to be that way. And then and it's so unrealistic that then you put yourself on a kind of on a defeat from the start,
Yes, and you struggle to hammer to be able to accomplish it, but it's unrealistic and undoable in 3D reality, and we believe you can do it instantaneously. Yeah. I just want to say something before I forget to the previous question, because I really want to validate this for audience, and then we can dive into this one. I love that you said that, whatever the cause is of us not feeling confidence is in the past, and we should be aware of it, but we shouldn't give it the energy. Actually, what we really need to give the energy to is that you can grow that muscle, you can change, you can evolve, as long as you understand that this is something that you need to work on. And in my spirit, this is a true coaching approach, because as coaches and somebody who really work to increase the confidence in others, we don't want to dwell in that analytical, why is this happening to me? What's the reason behind this? You just need to be aware and say, okay, I get it. I know this is my issue. And now what can I do? I just want to kind of highlight this for audience, because that was an important question. You answered it so beautifully. So, I just want to validate. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So let's go into this. You were saying that part of our challenge nowadays is that we, through this complex world with the digitalization of our profiles and who we are and how we represent our personalities, we tend to set unrealistic expectations for ourselves. We compare to other people, and this has direct impact to how we feel about ourselves and our confidence. And you just said this is a killer and we shouldn't do it, right?
Absolutely, yes. And maybe 10 years ago, and I remember 10 years ago, and social media was kind of appearing then. It was less crucial, maybe, or less serious, in my times 10 years ago. But today, we actually really need to take it so seriously that we almost have to manage our exposure to those standards that are not our personal standards, potentially, or maybe quite different to what is attainable and accessible to us in that given moment. So it needs to really be taken seriously. This is not a joke, kind of thinking, oh yeah, comparison. We all know that.
Yeah.
It's serious matter.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I see myself as quite confident person. I need to work on my confidence all the time because my confidence gets shaken sometimes. Something happens in your life and I'm like, okay, this shook my confidence. But I know that when I'm in that set of mind, when I'm looking at somebody comparing, being critical towards myself and my persona and how I present myself to the world, I feel it. I'm completely with you. I agree that my confidence begin like, going inward and degrading instead of being empowered and saying I am who I am, and and this is how I express myself. So I'm with you on that one. I think this is important for the audience to know and be mindful of, right?
Absolutely. If I may add something else around this topic, it links to my approach as well, around what do we actually do? How do we approach this? And I tend to talk a lot and pay a lot of attention to the fact that we tend to have this negative bias. So having the survival brain, and I know I'm sure you know about this, the kind of limbic system that kind of wants to keep us safe and it kind of prevents us from making the same mistakes, for going to the same kind of dangerous space, or speaking to someone who maybe criticized us in the past. We don't want to experience discomfort again. So this survival brain is keeping us safe. But at the same time, this survival brain kind of allows us to focus on the negativity in general, on the things that we don't do well or we didn't do well in the past. So it's very crucial for us to counterbalance that negativity with positive thinking and self-recognition, giving attention to the things that you do well, giving attention to the things that you've done well in the past, and really harvesting those moments from the past that we tend to kind of dismiss, and it's only natural for our brain to focus on potentially the kind of red flags. Hey, this is the red flags. You've been there before. Don't go there again. At the same time, the work is for us to expand the right brain thinking and go, okay, well, I need to do some work around it and really focus and train my brain to pay attention to what I do well, so that the muscle can grow with me. And there are resources out there that I can access. I'm just choosing somehow not to.
And I couldn't agree more with you. And I think this is also a part of the leftovers of a traditional educational system that is trained to criticize us and to point us in the direction to where is our weakness and what do we need to improve consistently. And then the positive feedback comes along, but not in a way that it's believable. Because if you train your brain to look for the negative, to be in a fight and flight and survival mode, and to consistently seek and search, how can he correct himself, instead of being in a parasympathetical nervous system and you're relaxing and you're saying, here is what I do well and here is what I'm going to put my attention to. It's a completely different ballgame. And again, I agree with you, Pat, when it comes to retraining our brain to be able to focus on what we really do well.
Absolutely. It's crucial. And here's an interesting fact, Zoran, something that I've also realized in my practice. And I've had multiple clients who came to me with the idea of working on their self-esteem. They were clear about it. And at the same time, 2-3 sessions into the coaching, they were showing me a massive resistance around working on their confidence. And so and it's crazy, right? But then in time, I realized, and we've had very open conversations about it when we were kind of going deeper. The resistance comes from the fact that often people consider confidence as arrogance. or big head, being big-headed, and I don't want to go there. A lot of clients kind of are scared of going there, and I often also consider this as a misconception, because in fact these two are the polar opposite. Arrogance often is a cover of someone who's actually lacking self-esteem. Being the loudest person in the room doesn't mean you're the most confident or you have a healthy relationship with self. It often indicates some sort of coverage or some sort of insecurity within you. So I love to make that clear distinction. Confidence comes from within, and it's based on your healthy and strong relationship you have with self, and it's only based on that. Arrogance or confidence that is, sometimes I call it self-obsession, maybe. It's based on the external factors. It's based on the ego-pleasing situations when you need to be clapped for something that you've done. You need that approval. You need to be, you need to feel great because people recognize you for something. Two quite different things. And often that needs to be really talked about so that we can somehow tackle and manage those resistant behaviors that tend to appear in that in those journeys of growing your confidence.
Exactly. And this is a part of re-education for our audience. And audience, I really would love you to pay attention to this, because as Patrycja was talking, the distinction between arrogance and confidence, and people resisting to step into their confidence as their predominant energy, comes from that misconception that arrogance equals confidence. And then if you really become confident, people will react to you because you will be too much, and you will be like in their face, and you will be the loudest. And what Patrycja beautifully draw as a distinction for us is that confidence comes from within. And when you are arrogant, it's an ego-pleasing situation when you have to have validation for external reality around you. That is fascinating, that you managed to, get into that nitty-gritty through conversation with your clients, and they were like resisting in a moment, and you were like, what is the resistance about? And you managed to get it there. Great. Wonderful.
Immediately straight into the point, because it was so obvious, and there hasn't been one client, there's been many, and I've been seeing this. One of the things that I love to say is confidence is not they will like me. Confidence is I will be fine even if they don't. Often we base that, I need to be approved, liked, and accepted, and therefore I will feel confident, but actually it's not that. Confidence is you will be fine regardless, because it comes from within. It's unshakable. And we need to pay that attention to that inner work for that reason, and not base it on external factors and approvals. I know it sounds deeper, and perhaps
it has to be deeper. It has to be deeper. I'm sure, the people who are tuning into this, they get it. I get it. It has to be deeper. So if you don't mind, now we can address the conversation to what's really happening in the world right now. What is preventing us to be confident and have a higher self-esteem? We draw the distinction between illusions around the confidence and misunderstanding, what does this mean to be a confident person going forward in your life and have a strong self-esteem. Where I would love to go next is like, how do we do this? How do you do this? Not only through your programs that you're running that are highly empowering and enabling people to build up that muscle and help us all basically become more of that in our own lives. So let's look into that. What would you say? What is your approach? How do you do this? What are the stages? I know that I'm asking you many questions, but we do one by one and then just distill them for our audience.
Sure. And I will do my best to somehow sum it up, because it is a huge topic, and it's great, and as you just nailed it before, it's a deep transformation. It's not a quick fix, and I always want to make sure that people know about it. That you need to dedicate and commit yourself to that work, but knowing as well that it's possible, which often excites people. So first of all, my approach is always to first of all get rid of all the misconceptions, and let's get it right, from the start. Often one of the things that I also try to put across as a message is that this work is very simple. And I love to simplify this work, because we can kind of approach this like, ooh, it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's easy. it's going to be a challenging journey, but it's possible, it's doable, and I try to make it as simple as possible. So the simplicity often comes in actually splitting or kind of looking at confidence and self-esteem as slightly different concepts, even though they go hand in hand. I see confidence as the quality of your behaviors and actions, and it's really the confidence as a word comes from the Latin word fidere, which means to trust. So technically it means to trust in your abilities, to trust in your skills to successfully engage with the world around you. So it's very much, how you do, how you act. It's your willingness to take risks. You can kind of analyze it by looking at your behaviors and how you are in the world. Self-esteem, on the other hand, as self-esteem actually comes from the word a estimare, which means to validate, to value something, to estimate something. So it's your technically your cognitive and emotional appraisal of your own worth. So to compare it with this kind of concept of confidence, it's the quality of your thoughts and feelings you generate towards yourself or around yourself.
Love it.
Right? So if you like the co-active model, this is the doing and this is the being here, right? The being is really the internal work that needs to be done. And I often start with that because to me personally, this is the beginning of everything. Really understanding what is happening in our subconscious mind and take off all the blockages and limits so that we can thrive and do the doing. So around self-esteem, the approach is again, to cut the long story short, is really to understand how our brain works and, see the difference between our limiting brain and the survival brain, in other words, and your empowering brain that is kind of responsible for building the empowering beliefs around yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So often it's about, first of all, let's get it right. What are the limiting beliefs? What are your saboteur voices? What do they say? What's the agenda of those voices? How do they limit you? And let's be honest about it. And what needs to happen? What neural pathways need to be created for you to counterbalance that negative bias that comes from your left brain thinking? So this is the deep work, Zoran, as you can sense, probably, something that...
Love it.
Yes, it may sound or appear abstract for people, and I totally understand that. But again, I get it. I try to make it as simple as possible. Of course, there will be also practical things that I often talk about, and the practicality of those things really evolves around daily habits and what can you physically do on a daily basis to really help yourself grow that muscle. So I can go into details if you want me to, but I wonder if this makes sense.
Absolutely. No. That, first of all, it's not too deep. I think that the distinctions, how you draw it up, I think it's very clear to the audience because we tend to attract people who are passionate about personal development, so they will get it immediately. And I think that this self-esteem versus confidence as well, how I'm learning from you right now, and the way you brought the Latin explanation of it, I get it. Trust in you, trust in your own abilities. And I'm thinking about myself right now. In my life, I remember only one teacher from my school, and that one teacher was teacher of literature, and I was really gifted in writing, but I really did not have any support at that moment in time. I was just a good writer, and I remember when she got me into the private meeting right time and get me to read my writing to her and ask me, how do you see your writing, experience your writing from the position of somebody who didn't write that piece, but for somebody who was listening to this. And I was saying, this is amazing. This is such a good writing. And then she said to me that night, trust yourself. You are a good writer. And I'm never going to forget that, because just that validation, I was small at that time, just sinked into me and then created that space when I was confident in trusting my writing abilities, because I didn't know if I was good or not good, but I witnessed it myself. She did not tell me, this is a great writing, you're good, you're amazing, you're wonderful. She actually asked me coaching question, what do you feel about your writing when you read this like this? As a receiver, I was like, this is really, really good. And she said, yes, it is. Trust yourself. So I love that. So the essence of this is that we really need to trust ourselves, right? We need to trust our abilities. And sometimes those abilities are knocked out of our system for so many reasons. It doesn't matter, but it's just the reality of our life that we're not that empowering as a humanity that everybody goes and trusts themselves from a deeper level. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think, Zoran, what a beautiful story as well. And I think that only demonstrates that you were lucky to have someone like that who probably was a model of authority to you in one way or another as a teacher. And so you trusted her in what she told you and in what she asked you. And you were lucky enough to kind of open up this seed of hope and trust within yourself. And then what happens in your mind, your mind is then consciously looking for evidence to back up that argument, to back up that point, the belief that, oh, actually, I am a good writer. Let's act in a way that I can cast the votes for that belief, And I think, again, we can still do it. And amazing if that happens when we were younger, because it then just happens naturally, right? But when we are adults and certain beliefs are already formed, it may take longer, or it may take a harder work in a way to actually build new beliefs, right? Or kind of eradicate the old ones that don't serve us. And I always then say that you need to allow your mind to find that proof, to find that evidence. And often we kind of wait for life to give us that evidence. And that can happen if we're lucky, but sometimes we need to make that happen, So that's when the challenge comes in. That's when, we all talk about push yourself outside of your comfort zone. That's the best way to grow your confidence. It's going to come if you keep pushing, But I personally think we don't do it strategically enough. So we often kind of jump into deep waters and then we kind of get defeated and we go, okay, I've tried.
I'm withdrawing. I get it. I completely with you. So let's get a little bit more practical, because before my example, I was just talking, you gave a beautiful introduction to the, confidence versus self-esteem. Then you also talked about that we need to put the work inside of it. And now I'm sure that, we can get a little bit more practical for our audience to see what can I do as a result of listening to this conversation to be able to engage onto the path of increasing my confidence, on really polishing my self-esteem. And as you beautifully said, this is not a spiritual bypass when you just follow the magic pill and immediately happens for you. We know this, human nature, it's like that. We need to invest time, energy, dedication, but then the rewards are wonderful because as a result of us, investing our attention into it. So let's look into practical steps that you would love to recommend and practical things that you would love people to start exercising or doing or on that path. And then we can talk a little bit more about the program that you are offering as well.
Great. Okay. So, Zoran, I believe that where your attention goes, the energy grows. So if you allow your brain to pay attention to, again, negativity, old limiting beliefs, then that's where the energy will grow. So to begin with, the first step would be to really do kind of self-check, self-analysis in a way of your life, understand what's the kind of limiting language you're using towards yourself. And by the way, I'm mainly talking here about the self-esteem area, which is the relationship you have with self and the quality of your thoughts and feelings that you then generate towards yourself. So quick self-check. What's the language I'm using towards myself? Maybe I'm not even aware of that. Let's make a list of those words that I use or the sentences that I create and then I talk about it, What are the thoughts that are actually limiting me? How do I refer to myself? So the best way to do it is to kind of almost imagine yourself as an observer of your own life and kind of go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday and kind of, just be investigator of your own life. See how you are in relationship with self. Have a kind of really good reality check there. And when you do recognize that actually, yes, I keep saying specific sentences that go, no, I can't do this, or I'm really bad at this, or I'm just not a morning person, or whatever that is that you made yourself believe and then became so unconscious about that belief, get clear on that. And the best way, Zoran, you're smiling, is there a resonance?
No, I'm just, there's resonance. I'm loving it. Keep on.
If the best way, and I think to manage your thoughts is to really give it to that voice, is to give it a persona, is to give it a name it. And throughout my workshops, in one-to-one sessions, we always my clients always leave with an identity of that saboteur voice, because we can't eradicate an enemy that we don't see or we don't know. And the worst thing is to believe, or to make yourself believe, that you are that voice. Well, the good news is that you are not that voice, and you can talk to that voice, you can see that voice, you can know exactly what's the agenda, and then the whole work revolves around managing that voice, and turning down the volume of that voice. But in order to turn down the volume of that voice, you really need to have an empowering voice in place too, that needs to be worked on. And I see it as that muscle that needs to grow. So one of the things that I often do with my clients is a very simple tool. And I've been doing this for the past 10 years, by the way. I have 2 folders on my computer. One folder is called accomplishment folder. So I track all of my accomplishments. And by the way, they could be as simple and maybe silly as this: cooking a meal on a day when I had a headache and I had no creativity whatsoever in my head, but I decided to make a meal and invite friends and push through. I feel, I kind of felt proud of myself of doing that. So I'm going to note that down. And so guess what it does? When you know you have a tracker that you need to fill in, and there's a date, there's an event, and there's, a section of how did that make you feel, your brain somehow keeps looking for those moments to track it, to make a note of, So I consciously started paying attention about the things that I do well. And I'm not bragging about it. This is maybe even the first time I'm sharing about this, the cooking experience. But it's about allowing your brain to look for those evidence, those proofs. Make a note. So that's tracker number 1. Well, that's folder number 1. Folder number 2, it's my favorite, Zoran, and I highly recommend this to everyone, is to keep a folder of acknowledgements. There are things that people recognize in you. They are compliments and appraisals and words of kindness that people send to you. And to me, they're like golden resources that we read, we connect, and then we let go. I don't let go. I take a screenshot.
Nice. I love it. I'm going to start doing that.
Please do it, because what a boost of confidence. This is more of a kind of quick, maybe.
Yeah. That's good. We all need it. Yeah, go ahead.
But I have folder of each screenshot is dated. There is a name of the person, and then there's this lovely comment, and it could be from anyone, from a neighbor, most of them are from my mom. I'm sure that will be the case for many people, but you do that, and then what it does to you again. You then have, sometimes when we feel low and we feel like maybe we are not worthy, maybe we don't deserve something, you then think of those people who actually do believe in you. And that's also a huge boost, and they kind of bring you back on track. Those comments, those little notes, they bring you back on track. And sometimes we need that.
Yes, we do. I do. Everybody does. That little kind of reminder to who you really are from the people who recognize and see you. Yeah.
Yes. So I encourage everyone to not lose those resources, those golden resources that we do have. And we can save and then utilize and use. And, the other really cool exercise that I've been doing in my group coaching is actually inspired by the workshop that I also facilitate for Google initiative, the I Am Remarkable workshop. And it's a very simple exercise, is to recognize yourself on a daily basis for what you feel remarkable for. I feel remarkable because I woke up when I didn't want to wake up, or because I went for a walk and I struggled and I had a hip pain or whatever. So, and then you share with a dedicated group those remarkable moments, and you either send a voice note to this group. You can create it with your friends. It could be up to 3 people, or you make a note of that. And we've been doing this with my groups of, group coaching groups that I've had, and I still do, but we don't do this exercise anymore. We've done it for a specific period of time as kind of intensive paying attention to what you can recognize yourself for. And it was incredible. Almost everyone in the group actually shared how their brain just shifted, the energy shifted, and they felt so good with themselves.
Wonderful.
As we are coming to the end of this wonderful recording, we have so much to share. And I'm sure that as a result of this, we're going to invite you to another, part 2 of this conversation, which is like, passionately talking about confidence. So for people who would love to know more about your work and maybe enroll in your programs, I know we're running those through TNM Live, and in TNM Live, we'll invite our community to join in. But for your own personal website, how do you think people can find you?
Yes, through my personal website, absolutely. LinkedIn is probably the best platform for me that I tend to be active and connect with people. And I guess what I would point anyone who would be interested in working on self-esteem and confidence is my Academy of Self-Esteem that I'm co-designing and co-delivering now with Binta Patel, starting from this year. And we're going to be taking 6 to 12 people on a journey of 12 months of building confidence and self-esteem together. And these are 2 hours a month group sessions. And we're going to be delivering our program that kind of tackles everything in details and more to what I shared today. So it's much more detailed and in-depth program.
So watch this space, beautiful people who are observing and watching this podcast. We'll share all the links in the description of this podcast, also in the description of the YouTube, if we post this on your YouTube or when we post it to YouTube as well, so you can have all the links handy. Patrycja, what to tell you? I'm completely inspired with your energy and your dedication to serve others on their path to the true confidence and self-esteem. I've been touched, today in our conversation, and I learned, I was like, okay, when we started, I was like, I'm also cool. I know a lot about confidence. I'm also coach people through the confidence issues and self-esteem issues. But when you dedicate and you focus and you niche yourself in that space, then you become a true expert. And I've learned a lot from you today. So it was a really, really pleasure to have you on this recording. Thank you so much for coming. Anything that you would love to leave our audience with, any last few words of wisdom from you?
Well, thank you, Zoran, first of all. And I'm so glad to hear that you got inspired and you've learned something. I would love to do more of those. So if there's interest, I'm more than happy to give more talks and podcasts and go deeper if need be. I guess what I would say is start small. Your steps need to be big enough to matter and small enough to be achieved. So it's not about going deep and kind of jumping into the deep waters. Start small, and the change is coming as long as you're dedicated and committed to the change.
Wonderful. So start small, dedicate to the change, check out the program. If you feel that you need to be inspired and become more confident, increase your self-esteem, this is the right space for you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Lots of love to everybody, and stay tuned. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.